Today we're going to talk about 3 reasons why you're not healing from your avoidant ex-girlfriend. It does not matter how much time you were together. Oftentimes, these relationships that are the most painful are the ones that are shorter. They're really, really, really intense. And then the avoidant cuts really quickly. And you know, if you know, right? That it is so painful when that happens. And that's because our number one need as human beings, at least emotionally, far above all of our other needs, is connection. Okay. So when we're looking at a connection to another person, we have to start looking at it as if we are bonded to them via like a physical cord, and that cord is actually attached to a part of our heart. Now, oftentimes in avoidant, anxious relationships, toxic relationships, or just relationships that are not healthy to some degree, the way that that cord forms and the reason why the sex is so mind-blowingly good in the beginning is because these two people, like you maybe are the anxious and this person as the avoidant, are mirroring each other's unconscious wounds in the heart center. What do I mean by that? Growing up, we were raised in families, in systems, in societies that probably did not meet our emotional needs, wants, desires, boundaries the way that we would have wanted. And that's okay. There's no blame or shame. This is just how consciousness moves through generations and moves through people. But let's just say you're growing up and you have an unavailable mother. And it is so delusionally painful. Like, I really want to make this very clear. It is very, very painful for a little boy in particular, who's sensitive, who needs love in order to feel safe and secure in the world. And he is consistently not met with that love. He is consistently met with coldness. He's consistently not like touched enough. Like, touch is one of our big human needs. So we don't look at that oftentimes and say that that's trauma, because we think of trauma as like a car accident or a really intense type of abuse. And that type of trauma causes PTSD sort of trauma. It's like shock trauma. But then there's this whole realm of trauma called complex trauma. And complex trauma is an emotional threat to the sense of self. Okay. PTSD, shock trauma, physical threat, car accident, physical threat to the sense of self. It's really easy to point to. You can usually like remember it to some degree, like, oh, that really messed up thing happened in my past. Complex trauma, let's go back to that little boy, and he's consistently not getting his needs met by his mother. This is just one example, right? One example of complex trauma. For that little boy, the pain is so intense. It is so immense. It is so all-consuming that it registers as a physical threat. However, the way that that child brain like looks at the threat is he can't view his mother as the threat because she is the mother. She's providing food, probably. She's providing to some capacity a roof over his head. It is impossible for a 4-year-old to look at the mother as a threat. So what's the other option? Because the pain at this point is so overwhelming to his nervous system. His subconscious mind as a little boy turns on himself. He goes, I can't get rid of this. There's nothing I can do to change this. By the way, this is where people pleasing, nice guy behaviors come from. But the child's brain goes, I can turn on myself and I can view my authentic needs, wants, and desires as a threat to my survival. Okay. So he's not turning on the mother, he's turning on himself. When that happens consistently over time, because that's usually what happens with complex trauma, it's a thing that happens consistently over time and you don't really know it's happening when it's happening, but it creates distortions in your personality that will later be revealed in life, aka revealed in avoidant, anxious relationships. Okay, see where we're going with this? So when he views, this little boy, he views his needs, wants, and desires and his boundaries as a threat, he can't have conscious awareness of those needs. If he needs love, but him needing love is a threat to his survival, then he's going to take his need for love and he is going to shove it so far back in the depths of his nervous system to the point where his awareness will not be able to access it anymore. Because why? It's a threat, and his body loves him unconditionally. And that's important to know. Our bodies never do anything against us, ever. And there's no addiction, there's no behavior, there is nothing that our bodies do against us. We actually exist in divine self love all the time. It is up to us, if we are not realizing that we are existing in divine self love all the time, to go digging into our subconscious mind and into our patterns as to where the distortion is occurring. Because essentially, for this little boy who grows up believing that he is unlovable, believing that his need for love is bad, wrong, he probably wrapped it in shame, like he needs something, but he feels shame about what he needs. This all stems from self love and self preservation because he needed to maintain that connection with his family unit, or his mother in this case. So, this little boy grows up, and this happens to everyone, by the way, and we do this all the time. We have all these complex traumas from our father, from our mother, from our teachers, from society, from the culture we were raised in, and even from little things that you wouldn't even think were like complex trauma, depending on how they affected you at the time as you were growing up, when you were super neuroplastic, meaning like you're a child and you're a sponge. You're kind of just absorbing things and learning that this is how the world works. And this is who I need to be. And this is who I need to not be in order to maintain me getting my needs met. Okay. We have all these different like pockets of our authenticity, of who we truly, truly are, of our needs, wants, boundaries, and desires that we have shoved in the back of our unconscious and subconscious minds, and they lay dormant. We do not have awareness over them. And not only that, these beautiful parts of us, like I need love and I need touch and I need affection and I want to exist in something really healthy. Not only have we shoved them back, we have wrapped them up in the pain we experienced when those needs were not met in childhood. More often than not, shame. Sometimes fear, sometimes anger, sometimes guilt, grief, sadness, deep loneliness, and powerlessness is a really big one. So we take this golden nugget, we wrap it up in this bubble wrap called emotional pain so that we don't ever get to that need again, right? Because that need was a threat, and then we shove it back. So fast forward, right? You imagine this little boy has grown up, now he's an adult, and his conscious awareness is split. His conscious awareness, by the way, is what he is just aware of, right? You can only be aware of so many needs, and then there are so many needs and boundaries and desires that you are not aware of, right? So full circle here, when the sex is really good. This is a general rule of thumb. I'm not going to say this is all the time, but when it's hot and heavy right from the beginning, and it feels like, this is important, the best drug you have ever had. This happens because of the person, we're going to call it an avoidant person in this situation, the avoidant woman has corded to an unconscious part of your heart that houses your authenticity, your authentic needs, wants, and desires. But we know from the story that I just told that there is still pain surrounding it. So for the first couple months, maybe for 3 months, everything feels really, really good because you're finally getting a taste of what it feels to have your needs met. And that feels probably better than anything you've ever felt before. Again, if you know, you know. It feels like divine, delicious, spiritual yumminess that is drugs in heaven on earth, right? We exist in that space. And when we exist in that delicious feeling, our awareness is able to move into the aspects of us that we have shoved away that have these needs, wants, and desires. When the avoidant cuts, especially when she cuts really quickly or when she leaves, or even really just in any breakup, but we're isolating an avoidant relationship right now, you are left with the pain rather than the drug. So it's almost like before her, you were in this state of like, what is that saying? Like obliviousness is bliss. I'm not saying that right, but like not knowing is like great because you just don't know what you don't know. Enter avoidant woman. Now you know. Now you know what you are missing. Now you have felt this part of you that feels whole, that feels complete, but it's corded to somebody that was never meant to stay in your life because she was there to awaken the pain inside of you so that you know where it is. Essentially, all of these pockets of our authenticity that we have repressed, suppressed, denied, and ignored all around us, we cannot know where they exist until we experience the pain. Because our awareness first has to transcend into the bubble wrap of pain before we get to the gold. So that is like the big picture trajectory of what is actually like happening on a bigger scale. So let's go through three of the main things that I personally see working with my clients and that I really just see all over the place of why you are not getting over your avoidant ex, even if it's been months, even if it's been all of this time, even if logically or like I don't really want her back, I don't know why I'm still in this amount of pain. All right, number one is you're not putting the correct frame around it. So our brains as human beings are meaning making machines, and the meaning that we place on the situations that we're in shape our reality. Now, meanings come from the same part of our brain that lies. This is what differentiates us from animals in the wild. Animals in the wild are not placing meaning on everything. The coyote who's trying to eat a squirrel is not like, oh, the squirrel escaped and I'm hungry. This must mean I'm a piece of shit and I'm unlovable. Like, no, the coyote isn't doing that. Wild animals are not putting meaning on everything. Humans put meaning on everything. And your brain will put meaning on everything, whether you realize it or not. Now, you can do this consciously or you can do this subconsciously. And this is where it gets interesting. Most of the time, we are subconsciously placing meaning on everything, meaning we're not actually aware of the meaning we're placing on it. And because an avoidant woman detaching, especially when it's quickly, is so delusionally painful, the meaning we are placing on it, aka the frame, is usually not a good one. And it's usually the frame that we place on it very much in alignment with the belief systems we created in childhood in order to make sense of the painful things that were happening then. Okay. I know I always talk about childhood and I don't mean to sound all Freudian. It's just that like patterns repeat on all levels. We live in a cyclical universe. There's spirals everywhere. Nature exists in this order. We exist in this divine order as well. And patterns will always repeat. Now, you can change these patterns because a lot of these patterns are just cycles of pain that are repeating because they want your attention. So instead of putting the frame around it, which you're probably doing right now, which is some capacity of like, this is horrible, this just sucks, I just kind of have to get over this. I just have to move on from this. Why can't I put this around, or why can't I put this past me? Why can't I get over this? Why can't I put this behind me? This is so awful. Or even evil speech about her. I hope she's not happy. I hope da da da. These are all frames that are unconsciously being generated by the pain that we feel, and we are missing the point because pain is never random. Pain always has a purpose. So if we can all agree that pain has a purpose, usually it's, especially with emotional pain, usually it's to wake us up to these bubble wrapped parts of our authenticity that we have repressed a long time ago, then the frame gets to become, wow, who am I becoming by leaning into this pain? And what am I learning about myself, what I want, what I need, what my boundaries are? Why did this show up in my reality? What am I learning from this? Why is this situation so amazingly here for me to evolve me and catapult me into my next level? Because I know I am meant to be with my soulmate, or I know I'm meant to be with an extremely healthy woman. I'm so glad that this happened because this is making me aware of the parts of me where I am not healthy, where I can heal. So this is different than toxic positivity because this is not bulldozing yourself and trying to generate a positive state and looking at yourself in the mirror and being, I am lovable, I am confident, I am great, I am over this. If you're not truly feeling lovable, confident, and over this, then that would be you lying to yourself and your body's going to have a very adverse reaction to it. This is just putting a different frame on it so that you can process the pain on a higher level because emotions exist on a vibrational scale. So the higher, they're not better, okay? That's like a weird human concept that we have. But the higher vibrating emotions, the ones that feel yummy and good, like happiness and joy and all of that, they literally vibrate higher. They process information faster. When we are existing in these higher states, we can actually see the periphery of our imagination. We can see the periphery physically with our view, with our sights, and mentally, we can see the periphery of what we want and what is meant for us, as well as the fact that pain, when paired with a higher vibrational meaning, one that will elicit a positive meaning in your life, will be able to actually process the density of an uncomfortable emotion far faster. So, again, not positive or not toxic positivity. Rather, this is just applying a frame. It's like you've unconsciously put this really, really ugly frame, and you are reaching your hands and you're taking off that ugly frame and you're putting a really cool frame. Maybe you want a really beautiful frame, or an ornate frame, or a really modern frame, like whatever the fuck frame you want. Put that frame on it and make that frame feel really good. So that is always like step one. You have to take charge of where your subconscious is going with this. You do not want to be in a downward spiral with this, because you will continue to downward spiral and you won't get anywhere. And then you'll eventually beat yourself up of like, well, why am I not over this yet? And you might already be there. It's just because you haven't put the correct frame on it. So your brain cannot sort for the correct information to actually heal from this. You will continue to ruminate and be in pain until you actually heal from this. Healing from this means reaching your hands into all of that bubble wrap and getting that part of your authenticity and bringing that authenticity into your day-to-day life. When you do that, you will not be thinking about her anymore. I literally can guarantee it, and I have seen it. I was going to say millions of times, so that's an overexaggeration. Hundreds of times, how about? I've seen it a lot, and it really, really does work, but that's just step one. All right, step number two of the thing that you're probably doing, which is keeping you from getting over an avoidant woman, is that you're believing your rumination. Our thoughts, right? That's the rumination, the thoughts that you're having, the things that she did that you can't stop thinking about, the things that happened that you can't stop thinking about, or the things that you did that you can't stop thinking about, or the questions of like, how could somebody do that? How could somebody treat me that way, right? These are all thoughts. And I kind of mentioned this in the previous step, but thoughts come from the part of our brain that lies. Meanings, thoughts, lies. It's a very human part of our brain. And it's this same part of our brain that is really beautiful. Actually, it has the ability to like write poetry and create art and do all of this wonderful stuff. But it's constantly creating meaning on everything in order to make sense of reality. It is constantly, AKA, lying, because meanings are lies. And I always use this example, but I could literally say, why was this morning the best morning ever? And I can tell you it was really great because I went for a walk and I actually got out of bed on time and my kids got to school on time. And I could also say, why was this morning the worst morning ever? Well, I was kind of processing an emotional thing, so my walk wasn't like as high vibrational as I wanted it to be, and I was feeling a little bit down. These are all true things that actually happened this morning. But do you see how I changed the frame? I changed the question. I changed the narrative with the why. And my brain is like a little AI generating machine, and it generates an answer called meaning. It generates lies. So this is the functionality of our brain. But our brains don't do this for no reason. So I want you to imagine that all of this rumination, all of this thought in your brain, let's call it, for just so we have a nice visual here, has roots coming down. And these roots come down from your brain and they go into your body. Now, in your body is where your emotions are. Your emotions are felt in the body, not in your mind. Your mind places a seemingly logical explanation of your emotions so that you can make sense of them, but they are lies about feelings in the body. Feelings are always true, but wait, simply because they are felt in the body. If I'm feeling upset, I am actually feeling upset because if you were to look at my nervous system, biochemically, I have all of the electrical signals, hormones, and onto my receptor sites that are causing me to feel upset. The lie I tell myself about being upset is not true. And so what happens with rumination is that it actually starts in the body. There's a feeling in the body that you don't have autonomy with yet, that is probably somewhere from your past that you don't have agency with yet. It's some type of feeling that you are in an animalistic reactionary program to, meaning you're viewing the feeling in your body as a threat. It's not actually a threat, but in childhood, you had to view it as a threat for your survival. That's not actually a threat. So when that threatening feeling comes up, we don't like it. And we are animals. Animals are always moving toward pleasure and away from pain. And the human part of us is a problem solver. So if we are in our animal body feeling an uncomfortable feeling, we're viewing it as a problem, we're going to run away from it. And then all of that gets sent up to our cute little human brain. And our human brain goes, oh, I will solve this problem. I will ruminate. That's where the rumination comes from. If I can change the outcome, it's futile, by the way, but it's like, if I can change the outcome, if I can solve this, if I can have more information, then what? I won't have to feel this way. This is called disassociation. This is not full disassociation, but this is like mental disassociation. We have just left our body. Our body holds the truth. We've left our body. Now we're in our mind and we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to solve it because we're in a reactionary program thinking that the feeling in our body is bad. So, number 2, problem that you're probably doing is that you're believing the thoughts in your head. You're believing the rumination. You're allowing for your brain to spiral with this rumination, falsely thinking that if you keep ruminating, if you can solve this, if you can figure out why, that it will solve your pain. Okay, what I'm recommending instead is you can use the story, you use the rumination in order to generate the feeling in your body, but then you very, very boldly and bravely take all of your awareness and go into your body. And I often explain this to clients as like, you basically feel it in your body. So let's say oftentimes we feel this pain in our heart because it's actually, right, we talked about those cords. It's like that cord has been ripped off. Now you have this wound in your heart. So instead of paying attention to the thoughts, if the thoughts start to happen, your first question should be, what do I feel in my body? You bring your awareness there, take your actual hands, place it on that part of your body, and tell yourself a new story. And here's one that I recommend. And this is kind of tying together both of these, the rumination and the putting the frame around it. Like, wow, I'm feeling so much pain. This hurts so badly in my chest. And this pain is making me aware of the places where I have been emotionally repressed, right? We could tell that story. If you really want to go for it, you can take your hand, you can place it where you feel the pain, and you say, oh, this pain hurts so badly, but I know and I trust that this pain is good because it's waking me up to my authenticity. You don't want to lie to yourself. You want to be careful with that. So it has to be something that feels authentic to you. But if you listen carefully to what I'm saying, I'm not making it be about her. I'm not making it be about her. I had to say that again. It's not about her. It's like you can leverage her and the pain that she's caused, but then you want to take 100% of your energy back and put it into yourself and use it to drive your awareness into these parts of you that you have repressed. All right, number 3 that you're probably doing is that you are not treating the pain that you feel from your avoidant ex as if it were a trauma wound. I'm going to give you the analogy. If someone were to traumatize you and wound you on your leg, let's say, right? And there was this big gash there and it was bleeding and whatever, right? It was a big gash and it was a lot of pain. If you were to freak out because you thought that that pain was bad and useless and purposeless, and you went and you listened to maybe other therapists or friends, and you tried to allow your brain to solve that problem, you would start to tell yourself a story about that gash on your leg of like, oh, I shouldn't be in pain. It's fine. I just got to manage the pain. I'll take some Advil. Oh, that doesn't work. I'm going to take some bigger, heavy hitters of pain medication. And I'm just going to continue to take this. I'm going to manage this pain because I don't believe it's supposed to be here. And I'm not going to take care of this wound. I'm just going to go about life as if the wound isn't there. No, the wound is still there. The pain has a reason. The pain has a purpose because it's trying to get you to pay attention to it. The pain is like yelling at you. This pain on your leg is like, hi, like, this is really bad. Let's say it happened on like a farm where there's farm animals around and there's an uncleanly environment, right? It's not clean. But you were to apply the same information and you just pop those pills of pain medication because you think that's what you should be doing and your friends tell you should be fine by now and therapists tell you to breathe through it and to not react to the pain. You are missing the fucking point. The point of the pain on your leg is to let you know, hey, I'm getting infected and I need to be cleaned and I probably need to go see a doctor. But if you're not listening to the pain, you're missing the point, and it will get louder and it will haunt you. And this is where it ends up turning into depression. Okay. Depression's a bigger talk that I'm not going to get into today, but depression is a self-loving process used to minimize pain. If you're not looking at the pain directly, depression will set in and it will minimize your pain for you. Okay, it's a process. It's not a feeling, it's a process. So let's take that same analogy. If you're not viewing the pain you feel in your heart, again, it's usually felt in people's heart, as a actual trauma wound, right? We talked about this in the beginning. It's a complex trauma wound. You're not going to be able to effectively solve it. Because if you imagine that this woman, this avoidant ex, has taken some cord, and she didn't do this because she hates you. She didn't do this because she meant to do this. This is just the way relationships pan out, okay? But it's like she has hooked onto that part of your heart where the pain was, and the immediacy of her detachment, which is usually what happens in an avoidant anxious relationship, is she yanks that hook. Like, it's not just gently taken out and soothed so that you're okay. No, that shit gets ripped the fuck out of your heart. In your heart, if you imagine, it has this open wound. Now, we know that inside of the open wound is a really cool part of your authenticity, but you got to get through that bubble wrap first. You have to get through that pain first. You have to get into the totality without resistance of what that pain is, what it feels like, because that's the only way you'll be able to flip the pattern and find agency within that pain. So when you treat it this way, when you treat your pain as useful, as good, as important information, and actually as a wound, it allows you to be with your pain in a way where you're not resisting it. And that's where usually people mess up, is they are resisting the pain. So if this is resonating, if this is landing with you, if you're just like, we're making these connections in your brain, we're like, okay, I see it now. Like, what do I do next? I do have some options. And I always say this, I always have options for every place that you're at. So I will always have free options. I'll always have paid options if you want something bigger, something more robust, and that's within your wheelhouse of something you're able to do. The free options that I have are, I have a couple other videos on YouTube. I'll try to link one above, of some steps you can take to get over your avoidant ex. You can follow me on Instagram, Kate Colley, with like 2 underscores in the middle, Kate under Colley. I have a ton of information. My entire Instagram is devoted to men's mental, relational, and emotional health. So you can get lost in that. There's tons of free resources. I have a men's masterclass in order to up level. That's kind of like number one with the frame of like, what am I learning? What is this most confident version of me? Who am I becoming? I have a lot of that information in a 40-minute entirely free masterclass. I do work with clients one-on-one. Depending on when you'll see this video, I may be booked out. I'm pretty booked out right now, but I will put the link. You can apply to work with me below. And then the last option that I have, which is really, really phenomenal, is I have an entire course that is self-paced, extremely robust, extremely detailed on how to heal complex trauma and PTSD, more shock trauma. Complex trauma, like I've said, it is really difficult to spot because it's subtle, but it creates massive distortions in a person's life. So if the things that I said around the complex trauma, about the mother wounds, maybe there's father wounds, shame from your childhood, shit that you've swept under the rug that you just haven't looked at, the course called Rewild Your Release, which I might be renaming soon, so be aware of that. I'll try to make it obvious in the description below, but I'm going to call it Rewild Your Release. That is going to be your, like, just where I walk you through how to heal all of this. I talk a lot about relationships in that course. So it's looking at all of your relationships. It is hunting for the limiting beliefs and actually how to change them. I don't believe in toxic positivity. I don't believe in affirmations. I tell you the correct way to do it from the hypnotherapist part of my brain, because I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. And then I also walk you through how to actually heal from complex trauma so that you're not attracting avoidant partners again and again, and so that you're not constantly living in pain. I talk about every single emotion. We go in depth into shame, childhood shame, disgust, self-disgust, painful memories, how to shift them literally, physically in your mind, and depression, powerlessness, guilt, anger, a lot on anger in there, how to leverage it that in a way that it's for you, because anger is not bad like people think it is. So I have that for you as well. Those are your options. Again, there's everywhere from free to one-on-one, and then there's some courses in between that give you a lot. The results I get from Rewild Your Release are absolutely phenomenal. They really, really, really are life-changing. And so I just want to put that out there. There's that. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Please hit subscribe to my channel if you find this content interesting. You want more information on the truth about love, desire, attraction, and definitely around men's mental, emotional, and relational health. All right, I will talk to you soon.